friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
Yeah, welcome back to Going In Raw News Brief. Before we get started, here's the headline for today, Larson. Do you want to see me make an ass of myself publicly in front of thousands and thousands of people?
Absolutely.
Do you want to see a grown man soil himself in embarrassment? If either of those answers are yes, come to Parts Fun Known. I'm going to be on QUIZZLEMANIA to show everybody just how little I know about the world of professional wrestling. I'm keeping expectations dirt low, man.
Good. Yeah. Because then once you exceed those expectations, you're going to feel like $1 million, man.
As long as I get points on the board, that's all I want. I want 2 points on the board.
I want you to do better than me, and I want you to win.
I wanted you to win too. That was legitimate. I thought that'd have been rad. Probably not going to happen, but not for lack of trying. I've been studying.
Have you studied the eBay stuff?
Yeah, I did last night. Yeah.
Do you think it'll help you?
To some small degree, maybe. To some small degree. I have like a general sort of basis for like how things go there, but I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that he chose, at least in your case, it was kind of shocking. A lot of those were kind of like maybe outliers. I don't know.
Yeah. I think.
At Buff Bagwell, I didn't see anybody. I mean, I saw there was like one shirt. It was like $130, and it was like a vintage, very exclusive Ric Flair shirt.
Wow.
From like WCW, but like certainly I didn't see anything from like a low mid-carder like Buff Bagwell going for $75.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, check that out. It should be, regardless, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to.
Fun. We're going to jump right into it. Speaking of people who don't want to be low mid-carders, the Revival, now called, I guess, the Revolt. Although they said the R and FTR could stand for kind of a variety of things. So
it's still unclear what their actual name is.
Yeah, it truly is. So they had their appearance on Talk is Jericho. That seems to be a rite of passage for anybody who's leaving WWE. They make a stop with Chris Jericho to shoot hard on the WWE, and they did, but it wasn't as you put it here, revelatory as one would hope. They did have a lot to say, but most of it was pretty much thoroughly covered by various wrestling news outlets already. And I think that's the one thing I've gleaned from this and the Brody Lee one is that there's a lot of really good people working the wrestling media these days, getting the information, double checking their sources, corroborating the stories they're getting. So, if this had happened 3-4 years ago, it'd been like, oh my gosh, Vince actually pitched this terrible comedy gimmick idea to the Revival. What was he thinking? Yeah. Now we've seen all that stuff. We've seen the images. We've heard the basics of the story. So what they're just filling in is essentially the details. So nothing's really terribly shocking in this because it's all been reported already.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another thing about the leaks that I thought was interesting was the idea that according to Cash and Dax now, the leaks don't actually come from the wrestlers. They come from what was surprising to me was when they had that a meeting in the talent relations office. He says as soon as we left, it had been leaked, and the boys, the wrestlers, started talking to us about it. And he says it's not the boys that are leaking this stuff. It's not the wrestlers. It's the management people. It's when they're privy to these meetings, they go out and they talk to whomever.
And they use the term kayfabed, as in the locker room is being kayfabed, and that a lot of news they hear about what's going on in the company, they don't hear from people within the company. They hear on social media and on these news sites. Which
was like both interesting and disheartening, to say the least. I mean,
we've actually heard,
we've heard this kind of stuff before. Xavier Woods has talked, I think, openly about, we don't know a bit what, like, I think it was the draft or something. It's like, we have no idea where we're going to get drafted until we're actually drafted. So we find out when the fans do. Yeah. So that was interesting. Yeah, this was not nearly the level of, on the spectrum of shooting hard. I would say Brody Lee's was really, really in the orange. Dean Ambrose was probably approaching red very quickly. Yeah. Matt Hardy's was a bit more in the yellow, I'd say. This was actually kind of Volt, man. This was kind of in the green territory. I don't think this, like you said, I know that a lot of the stuff we had already heard, so there wasn't really anything new. But even though that we had heard this stuff, there were no crazy Vince stories related to it beyond And as far as the clown stuff goes, so I had sort of figured there's got to be some sort. Now, is it terrible? Yeah, of course it's terrible. But there's got to be some sort of angle here. There's got to be some sort of context here. And the context was, we're unsatisfied. They were basically kayfabing their legitimate concerns with the tag division.
Yeah. Totally.
You guys think that WWE, or we think WWE considers tag division a joke. Let's show you what a joke is. So it's not that was going to be new clown characters for them. It's, hey, we're protesting the way things are going here.
The only people that can get over in the tag division are comedy acts. So let's be a comedy act to show how ridiculous this whole situation is. And yeah, the actual motivation, assuming that's sincere and genuine from creative, is interesting. The packaging of that idea was atrocious. But it
was apropos for the idea, though.
I mean, it kind of was, but there's ways to go about it to make it not so ridiculous.
Well, the point is that it's supposed to be clownish. It's supposed to be ridiculous.
I know, but I mean, there's ways to present somebody as a comedy gimmick, poking fun at the idea that no serious tag team can get over without it being. I don't know. I guess you can make the point that unless it's to the maximum possible degree, it's not going to be effective enough.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know. It was. I think part of it too is there was just so many different elements picked from various maybe inspirations or sources that were all kind of shoved together that they kind of lacked unity other than ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
In terms of the presentation, that more than anything else is like, this is just like 10 different ideas they're just shoving together because they think it's funny, as opposed to one uniform idea that really pushes home seemingly the point of this, which is only clowns get ahead, essentially.
Well, I think that the bigger issue for me wasn't necessarily in the minutia of the packaging. It was more the motivation of the people presenting it to him. I mean, they said that they were in a meeting. I think it was with Vince, Bruce Pritchard, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Carrano as well.
Yeah, Mark Carrano,
was in that meeting, and they all had straight faces, and they didn't really know if those guys were simply messing with them, or if they were trying to bury them on the way out, or if they were saying, hey, this is a story that we feel you guys, it reflects the way you feel, and you can sort of get that across. They didn't really know, which is also disheartening, because it's like you would think that whatever idea, and we know this is not the case with Vince. Vince, he will bury people on the way out. And
I mean, the Revival or Dax and Cash are right to have hesitation about it based on history. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And for them to say no, they're totally. But I mean, they even said, look, we would have done this if we felt that the larger issue that we had, the spotlight that needed to be on the tag division for us to be happy here, elevating them and not having they brought up specifically the, Nicholas winning the tag championship with Braun Strowman. They said things like, two solo guys being put together have a better chance than two guys who were thematically linked. Those are the issues they had. And they said, we would have been fine doing the clown thing if our greater issue was actually being addressed there, and clearly it wasn't with that.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But yeah, I was interested. There were no, I mean, number one, these guys, I'm sure it's not for lack of stories out there, but these two guys obviously are very smart. Mm-hmm. I think Brody Lee was totally fine burning whatever bridge he wanted to burn with the WWE, because those stories were freaking out there.
Yeah.
And I think that they were true, but if you're a guy who's thinking to himself, one day I might want to end up back here, you're not going to be telling those stories. And that's one thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Revival probably have an entire file of them, mentally at least. And they went on there and they basically just confirmed what was already out there. They didn't really get into much new stuff.
Well, here's the thing too, is one thing they mentioned on the on Talk is Jericho is that when they wanted to have their talk with Vince in person about their grievances, that it took forever to happen. It kept on getting pushed up, put off, and seemingly canceled. Eventually, spur of the moment, bang, they got their opportunity.
And they said it was put off. Not to interrupt you, they said it was put off because things were so hectic because of the XFL and because of the Fox deal.
So maybe it was a situation. It wasn't a situation where they. I'm just speculating here. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not a situation where they have a bunch of crazy Vince stories locked away. Maybe they didn't get as much FaceTime with Vince as some other people did.
That's possible. But, somebody, I mean, they didn't really even address the whole what was the Uzi Hot stuff. They went through a lot of stuff that would make me think they have to have some stories. But I mean, that's a good point. Maybe they were there for 6 years. I mean, I know a lot of that time was spent in NXT, and they had some really great things to say about Dusty, like everybody does.
Let's talk about this, because this I want to speculate on, because this could be funny. So they tell the story of how they had a match. They came back to the gorilla position, still in their gear, and talked to a mystery person about wanting to be released. And this person said, "Oh, don't worry, things are going to change. Things are going to be delegated."
Oh, do his voice.
Oh, you mean do Triple H's voice?
Yeah.
Because that's totally Triple H.
It's totally Triple H. Because who else would be a gorilla position? And who else? We'd also heard that. Didn't we hear that Triple H was seen like consoling the Revival at some point?
It was Ricochet, I think he was consoling. Maybe it
wasn't okay. Yeah, but that's interesting, because what they said there was actually very interesting. We're both assuming it's the game, was saying things are probably going to be changing here pretty soon. The landscape is going to be changing. With, either insinuated or directly said that, the creative responsibilities are going to be delegated out sooner than later. That was 15 months ago. And this old man is still at it. So I'm not sure when the landscape is going to change.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's obvious that Cash and Dax went into this very professionally minded, in that, as you said, they weren't looking to burn bridges. Maybe they have some juicy stories that they could have shared. They didn't really. They more or less confirmed everything that had been out there for months. And yeah, I mean, it speaks to their professionalism as a whole, because even they said, we wanted out. 2019, even though we wanted out, we worked just as many matches pretty much as anybody else in the company. They love to work. They seemed to be their stance through all this was, yes, we want out, but we're going to be professionals. We're not going to air anything publicly. When asked about the leaks, I think Cash said, he deflected, didn't confirm anything. Their stance throughout all this was, while we're here, we're going to give everything 100%. We're going to work. And then we're just going to wait until our contract's up. We're not going to make a stink. We'll air our grievances to the boss man, but otherwise we're not going to complain.
This was interesting. According to both of them, I think the money that was reportedly offered to them, and they specifically, I think, said $750 each.
$750, yeah.
It was actually more than that was offered to them.
That's crazy.
Which was crazy. Let's see here. I mentioned that they mentioned some. I mean, they were very positive about a lot of things about being, free agents. How, they likened it to a relationship. They just got out of one long-term relationship. They don't want a rebound relationship, so they're not going to lock themselves down. They mentioned the North from Impact. They mentioned Guerrillas of Destiny as tag teams that they would like
the Briscoes
to take on. Yeah, the Briscoes. So it kind of feels like they're going to have maybe some sort of like a Moxley type thing. We've talked about this before, how they're going to be a very much sought after act. We've already seen their initial show up in being the Elite, so obviously AEW is a place to be. Speaking of being the Elite, kind of interesting. They had no idea that the Revival thing was a thing until it happened, and they were like, "Do these guys legitimately have a problem with us?" Or because they understood that their buzz was really starting to pick up.
Yeah, and they said that they don't even think they've even had a face-to-face meeting with the Young Bucks.
Yeah, that's probably true, but they've had communication with them. Nobody has face-to-face anymore.
No, social distancing, you can't do it these days.
No, you can't. So yeah, it's definitely worth a listen, but obviously these guys are smart enough to know that, hey, if we start like really burning everybody to the ground, it's gonna cut off some opportunities for us down the line. They're still relatively young. So yeah, it's definitely worth a check. I'm very much looking for. I would love to see them show up in every damn promotion once this pandemic stuff is done with. I mean, for them to show up in AEW one week and even Impact the next. And I'm not sure if AEW is going to let the whole North American thing happen, but you never know. The Young Bucks wanted to do that with the Hardys.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if the Revival or the Revolt, whatever they are, FTR, ended up being kind of, a tag team, opening the doors to all sorts of places.
Yeah, take it back to the territorial days. Territory days, I mean, I would be surprised at the same time I wouldn't to see them show up on Dynamite tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same.
Wouldn't
yeah.
be shocked.
Yeah.
And
no,
then
absolutely.
for them to do a program there and then go somewhere else once, wrestling companies start running shows again. Because if they want to work now, I know they talked extensively on Talk is Jericho about getting some time off. But by the talk of it, they've been off the road since January.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Impact running? Are they do? Because I know they had the empty arena thing like 2 weeks. The Revolution thing, was it called Revolution?
Yeah.
I know they had that. And then I know that like Kimberly showed up like I think yesterday on Impact. I don't know how much they have shot or not or what, or if they're continuing on or not or what. But it'd be something else if they showed up in a couple different places. If they were able to.
Like
I'll be honest with you, man.
Impact one day and on Dynamite the next day.
I'd be into it. I'd watch Impact. I'd watch that. I mean, they are for me. They're a needle mover for what I'm going to watch. I'm interested at least at the outset.
But the real question is, would you tune into Ring of Honor just to see the Revolt?
Oh, I don't have to worry about that because they've already said they're not doing anything until at least June. So ask me again then.
Through June.
I would. I know I would. I totally would. Absolutely.
Speaking of someone who's not wrestling, CM Punk, is he the SmackDown hacker? Yes or no, Steve?
He's the backstage hacker, maybe. I think they're doing that on Backstage just to hype up his return to Backstage.
Next week, I know. So Cage Side Seats had a thing saying there's some evidence. He's not the hacker, but there's some potential evidence that the truth will be heard that Punk is WWE's Mr. Robot. So the SmackDown hacker hit Backstage last night, interrupted the panel to roll the latest video. And then when it was posted on Twitter by WWE on Fox, I believe, it was accompanied by the caption, "Do I have everyone's attention now?" Of course, that's something Punk used, a phrase he used during the build-up to the Money in the Bank match against John Cena. And then the hacker, he has, on occasion, included some coordinates in his videos, in his Twitter bio. One was Truth and Consequences, New Mexico. One was Performance Center. And I guess the latest one, according to Cage Side Seats, is in Brooks County, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Well, his name is Phil Brooks.
Exactly. And he's going to be on Backstage next week. Renee Young thinks CM Punk could be the hacker. Is he the hacker, Steve? The hacker's got the black hoodie. That's what Punk wore when he made his surprise return to that little indie show in Milwaukee. Of course, the hacker doesn't have any tattoos on his hand, but this could all just be swerves left and right. Is Punk the hacker?
I can't think of a lamer way to reintroduce CM Punk to the wrestling world.
He would not be into this at all.
He would never be into this. I still say the best option here is Sammy freaking Callahan. How great would it be? And there's no way because he's like Mr. Impact. How great would it be if they brought Solomon Crow back for this? That would be shocking, man. That would be great.
That would be shocking.
But no, man, it totally isn't Phil. But it's kind of interesting that they're totally doing this to promote him for Backstage because they want to get those Backstage numbers up. That's the only explanation for this.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's cool that Backstage has some amount of stroke with like the people in digital who are producing this. Unless like they just like literally could have ripped this footage from YouTube.
I think I think the video that ran last night is more or less the same one that went up over the weekend on the 3rd.
Yeah, they could have just repurposed it, changed some numbers, added a shot.
Which I tried to mess with the audio, and they actually disguised the audio way better than they had in the past.
Oh wow, that's interesting. They shut that down. There is, although one shot, and I don't know. I guess this has been seen before, but of the keypad that's been dialing in, it says 051020. So it's the Money in the Bank date.
Yeah.
So we should expect something to happen at Money in the Bank.
Exactly. We got a couple shows happening tonight. NXT, AEW. Let's do NXT first, Steve.
Yeah,
Please.
man. First up, Adam Cole Bebe defends the NXT title against Velveteen Dream.
That's tonight. Also, Charlotte Flair defends the NXT Women's title against Io Shirai. That'll be great.
So, I mean, the odds of Velveteen Dream win against Adam Cole are better than Io Shirai winning against Charlotte Flair. I still don't feel like it's all that great of a. I mean, maybe they'll do it to try to pop ratings because ratings are so bad right now.
Yeah, no.
This is fun. Who do you think Karrion Kross is going to be fighting? Because he's making his in-ring debut with Scarlett.
Kona Reeves.
I would think it's going to be a bigger name than that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Ciampa.
Could be. Finn Balor seeks justice against mystery attacker.
So this confirms Finn Balor's not been kidnapped. Because that was what I thought the insinuation of the original thing was, that he was taken. Guess not.
Well, there's already a kidnapping angle going on.
Yeah, no. Dominic Dijakovic's going to be an Arby's night if he defeats Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Dijak, what does the Magic 8 Ball say about your chances tonight?
Not looking good. I don't even know if that's a Magic 8 Ball phrase. On AEW, we've got Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, Les Sex Gods, versus Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega. Kenny's teaming with everybody except his tag team partner, so that's fun.
No. John Moxley taking on Frankie Kazarian.
This is live, isn't it? This is a live one, huh?
It's a live show.
Wow. Cool. Is it going to be from
Daly's Place? They haven't confirmed, I don't believe, but that would be my suspicion, yeah.
And then this should be fun. Cody is taking on Joey Janela.
Yeah, that'll be a fun match.
So that'll be cool. Yeah, it should feel a little bit more on the fresh side if it's going to be live or a different place or whatever. So, yeah, that's all good stuff. Yes or no, Velveteen Dream becomes new NXT champion tonight? You don't think so? Yeah, probably not. Anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Yeah, check me out on Parts Fun Known. Oh, boy, this is going to be a disaster.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.